This week, everything is getting a little crazy for the Jews as we're celebrating Purim this week and in a month, Passover. Both holidays are very communal in their celebration and observance, which is complicated by the coronavirus epidemic that has spread around the world. So let's take a look at how the Jews are responding. I'm Lev Gringaus, and welcome to The Jews Are Tired, your podcast about Jewish news. So, like most people and communities in the world, Jews are being affected by the outbreak of what is now known as COVID-19, the virus that emerged in China right at the beginning of this year and that has spread literally around the world. According to the World Health Organization, there are almost 114,000 confirmed cases across more than 100 countries, with slightly over 4,000 deaths so far. Israel is practically on lockdown with a mandatory 14-day quarantine for anyone who is coming back from traveling outside of the country. The number of confirmed coronavirus cases there has now reached around 70, jumping by about 20 cases on Tuesday alone. In New York, much of the coronavirus outbreak has happened in the modern Orthodox Jewish community, with around 142 confirmed cases in the state as a whole. And at least 5 people were infected with the virus while at the pro-Israel AIPAC policy conference, which was attended by around 18,000 people. So the moral of the story is that we are all in this, the whole world and all the Jews in it. And before someone accuses me of being a member of the fear-mongering media elite by telling you all this, I'll just emphasize, number one, that this is reality and these are the numbers as they stand as of Tuesday. And number two, if you're worried about the virus, learn more from a reputable source like the WHO, the CDC, the NHS, or other knowledgeable health institutions or professionals. Go to their websites where there are organized FAQ sheets. The only medical advice I'm qualified to give is, for the love of God and all that is holy, wash your hands with soap and water. Everyone might be stress buying Purell and hand sanitizer, but nothing beats straight up soap and water. In case anyone is wondering, and no, this is not sponsored, but my favorite soap in the world, because I'm a normal person and have a favorite soap, is Dr. Bronner's Magic Soaps. It's natural and it's concentrated, so it lasts you a while and it's great stuff. Anyway, back to our regular programming. As I said, this has been a worldwide issue, and the reaction of most countries has been fairly similar in trying to contain the spread of the coronavirus. They've quarantined parts of, or in the case of Italy now, all of the country. And that's a really difficult thing to deal with for Jewish communities. For example, synagogues have been closed in Italy, leaving families with bar or bat mitzvahs basically in limbo, as what would have been large celebrations with family and friends are canceled. And that's also hard because we read the 5 books of Moses, the core of the Torah, on a cycle that has a different parsha or part of the Torah being read every week. So for kids who prepared for a particular Shabbat to read a particular parsha for their bar or bat mitzvah, it's not quite so simple as saying, well, it's okay, you can read it next Shabbat, because next Shabbat already has a different parsha, and there's no telling how long Italy might extend its quarantine. So kids are left having done all of this work, and in many cases with families having spent lots of money on a bar or bat mitzvah, and it's all shut down because of the response to the virus. There's also an issue of families sitting Shiva, which is the 7-day mourning period that a family observes for the death of a loved one. Though it's an intensely personal event, it's also normal and even expected for friends and community members to stop by and express their condolences to the family. When under quarantine from the coronavirus, dropping in isn't really the best plan of action, which actually leads to some of the more positive stories that have come out of this situation of communities not being able to physically gather. What's happening now is sort of a digital revolution by necessity. There's a really interesting story from the Jewish Telegraphic Agency, which is linked to in the podcast notes, about how the SAR High School, a modern Orthodox school in New York City, which was closed and the students quarantined after some students were infected with the coronavirus, has transitioned to basically being an online community. Classes are taught by video call, but also one student read Torah for his bar mitzvah and other students tuned in over video call. Similar idea for a family of a student that is sitting Shiva. Everyone came calling, some by audio and others by video call. And I know I'm saying video call over and over, but it can't be underestimated that this is a tool that can help tightly knit communities stay active and vibrant even through the current situation. And yes, there have been some synagogues for a while now that have been on the digital train, that have been live streaming their Friday night or even Saturday morning services for everyone to tune in. But as any religious person can tell you, it's one thing to sort of do something and another to do it with intention and also out of necessity on a community-wide scale. But not everyone is live streaming. With the holiday of Purim this week, a typical "they tried to kill us, they didn't, how great, let's eat" holiday, it's a commandment for each Jew to hear the story of the Jewish survival in ancient Persia, read from the scroll of Esther. So what some rabbis in New York and Israel have been doing is walking around where people are quarantined in their homes and reading the scroll of Esther to them from the street. But of course, there have also been several live streams of the reading online. And some synagogues in the U.S. have been having some fun with the new in-person safety precautions. To replace handshakes, there's been a resurgence of the Star Trek Vulcan greeting, brought to the show by Jewish actor Leonard Nimoy during his role as Spock in the 1960s. Funny enough, the hand symbol of the greeting is an actual Jewish priestly ritual. And basically, Jewish humor in this situation is also going nowhere. A Jewish food-related Twitter account tweeted, quote, "What's the most Jewish food item you've stocked up in preparation for coronavirus?" leaving Jews on Twitter to respond with answers like guilt, anxiety, gefilte fish, and chicken soup. So like all things that Jews have lived through, we'll figure this one out too. And if you're interested in following regular and daily updates on how Jews are doing and it won't spark your anxiety, I recommend you check out JTA News, The Forward, and the New York Jewish Week, all of which are following coronavirus-related Jewish news in the US and around the world. As a disclaimer, I interned at the Jewish Week last summer. Also, the Hebrew Free Loan Society, an organization that provides financial assistance to those who need it, is offering loans to support people who are financially affected by the coronavirus outbreak. A link to their website will be in the podcast notes in case anyone wants to learn more or donate to the HFLS to help. Now, to wrap up this episode and leave you on some non-coronavirus related things, I want to offer up shout-outs to some pretty cool initiatives by The Forward and the New York Jewish Week that I highly recommend you go and check out if you've got a spare moment. The Forward is running a project called Unsung Women for Women's History Month, which is a series of short profiles on Jewish women that we should all know about, but most of us don't. From Sephardi poets to German Jewish rabbis, these profiles aren't super deep dives into the life of each woman, but it helps bring an awareness of the incredible women who have shaped Jewish life. I think it's fair to say that most Jews know about and typically think about male figures when it comes to Jewish life, and this is a great way to change that. A link is in the podcast notes, and again, I really recommend you read through the profiles. And the New York Jewish Week has a series of satire articles as part of their Purim Spoof 2020 that, let's be real, we should all read just to have a laugh in these crazy times. The most notable and widely shared satire article so far has been about a TV show about Reform Jews that is popular with ultra-Orthodox Jews, which, to anyone who's noticed the real-life phenomena of an Israeli TV show about ultra-Orthodox Jews being super popular with non-Orthodox Jews, that has to at least elicit a smirk, if not a smile. And a personal favorite is a satire article about a study that shows most Jewish college students are pro-Israel, but they just don't want their parents to know, so that their parents don't force them to participate in pro-Israel advocacy groups. A link, of course, is in the podcast notes. This has been this week's The Jews Are Tired podcast. I'm Lev Gringauz. Don't forget to subscribe and share, and hopefully next week the Jews will get some rest. The Jews Are Tired is a product of Jewfolk Inc. For more information, go to tcjewfolk.com or email the show at podcast@tcjewfolk.com.